Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Space Weather. First thing we're doing here is looking at the sun in colorized magnetogram and 171 angstroms to see a new possible sunspot group forming up here north of sunspot 2827. That's this group down here. Sunspot 2829 and 2827 have both degraded a bit in the past 24 hours. We do have a coronal hole rotating into the Earth-facing zone here, and we can expect a coronal hole wind stream from that in about 3 days. And coronal holes are like low-pressure systems. They're the other main feature to see on the solar disk besides sunspots. So here's another wavelength. This is 304 angstroms ionized helium from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Really pretty low levels of solar activity here over the past 24 hours. Continuing on to show you a diagram of the solar system. Here's where things like planets are located. We'll advance this 1 week. There's where things will be on June 12th. And here's a star chart. We've drawn in the ecliptic here, this yellow line. That's the path the sun will take across the sky. And I think it's just rose. The sun just rose at my location. We're located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. You could also see the moon and Jupiter and Saturn near the ecliptic if you're up before dawn. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux at 77 solar flux units. And there's the 1 year chart of the radio flux from solon.info/solar. The black line is the radio flux, the red line is the sunspot number, and you can see how proportional those two features indeed are. No geomagnetic storms or anything like that forecasted at the moment. Again, we can expect to see a coronal hole wind stream in about 3 days from that large south-oriented coronal hole. Let's take a look at global seismicity. Here's a 90-day bar graph of that. No major quakes in the past 24 hours. Here are the 4+ magnitude quakes. So quite a few 4+ magnitude quakes. Looks like only 3 5+ magnitude quakes over the past 24 hours. Let's scroll up the list here on the USGS website. One of those 5+ magnitudes was a 5.2 at Indonesia. There's the location of that one on the map. And a second 5.0 magnitude quake in that same region. A 4.8 magnitude deep quake at Japan. And we see a 4.7 off the coast of Oregon. Perhaps those two 5.9 magnitude quakes we covered yesterday were not foreshocks. Let's hope. So that 4.7 looks like an aftershock. Let's hope the 5.9s were the largest. And it looks like the largest quake of the past 24 was this 5.4 on the west coast of South America. Take a quick look at the location of that one. There it is out in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Chile. Continuing on, there was a deep one at, let's see, off of the east coast of Russia. That was at 477 kilometers depth. Kermadec Island saw a deep quake as well there north of New Zealand. A 4.4 magnitude at 262 kilometers. So let's check volcanoes. Abico, still erupting, producing an 11,000-foot ash plume there. Sangay in Ecuador, exploding, 22,000-foot ash plume. Revenador in that same nation, Ecuador, exploding, flight level 140, it's a 14,000-foot ash plume. Sabancaya, continuous emissions. No word on the size of the ash plume. Novato State, Chilean, sporadic emissions of volcanic ash. And Nyiragongo in Central Africa still exploding, producing a 15,000-foot ash plume. And it's a great reminder to not pole vault the caldera. Please don't pole vault the caldera. We need the views. And if you attempt to pole vault the caldera, it could be an unhealthful outcome for you. Please leave a comment if Dr. Fauci has any sort of a stance on pole vaulting calderae. I'm not sure if Fauci recommends it or not. And I won't talk about whether or not we'll encourage Dr. Fauci himself to pole vault a caldera. Next, on to solar flaring. We haven't seen any major solar flares, just a series of B-class intensifications in the X-ray output of the closest star. We don't see any spikes in the proton flux. We would have probably forecasted it, since we're able to forecast coronal mass ejections before they exit the corona. Next, the GOES magnetometer over the past 3 days, looking fairly smooth here. And if you're a new viewer, these N's and M's, that M right there, that means midnight local time. That N right there means noon local time for the GOES 16. Let's take a look at the heliospheric current sheet and its polarity. South Pole-oriented portions of the current sheet are shown here in red. North Pole-oriented portions are shown in green. And we may see some activity kicking up here over by stereo A. You can see that green portion of current sheet shining through. There's the last image. We're also seeing some rather direct potential field surface source lines right there that looked like they lead all the way to the corona. There still is a bit of plasma in between the Earth and the Sun. That's why you see this area here of bunched up potential field surface source lines. Continuing on with the line of sight ecliptic plane field plot as well as the solar magnetogram. Fairly uneventful here. Earth is solidly in a South Pole current sheet. Line of sight coronal hole plot shows us this south-oriented coronal hole stretching up toward the equator. As cycle 25 progresses, solar cycle 25, it began in November of 2019. This imagery also shows you the sun's B field in blue. Next, detected sunspot groups and filaments. And again, you can see this possible new sunspot region forming up here to the northeast of sunspot 2827. There also still are some filaments. You can see some up here and some detected around the eastern limb. You can also see one down here. This little dark spot is a plasma filament also indeed. The KP index, a measurement of global geomagnetism, currently at 1. And next, looking at the real-time solar wind data, we did see a little slight pulse here yesterday where we saw the solar wind speed come up and the temperature come down and the density come down. So that looks like a minor bit of coronal mass ejecta striking to me. You can see this definite signal here in the temperature, and then that event abruptly ends right at about 2220 yesterday. Anyway, current conditions are slightly elevated solar wind density here at 11 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed still quite low at 336 kilometers per second. Next 4 hours of Geospace Magnetosphere movie. We show it daily. And we can't access the archival data on this, so we at least show 4 hours every day on our daily space weather videos. If you want to see what was happening around this time of day on a previous day, you can go back about 3 years. And you can find all of our playlists at youtube.com/smashamash/playlists. Again, that's 4 hours of data, magnetohydrodynamic pressure. Next, looking at magnetic perturbations to the Earth's surface, otherwise known as geospace delta B. Again, 4 hours of data showing you where the Earth magnetism is seeing changes in its field strength. This is shown in nanotesla. The previous one was nanopascal. That's a measurement of the magnetic flux itself. Nanopascal is magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And we're not under any pressure. Although we do regularly stream live to Twitch, twitch.tv/smashamash. Go check us out over there. Thanks to our followers on Twitch. Thanks to our new subscribers over on YouTube. If you're a new viewer, don't forget to press like and subscribe. Share the content with your friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros, and congratulations on finding out that our channel exists. Cheers. Again, don't forget to check out our playlists. We're also on BitChute. And thanks to our new Twitter followers. Thanks to everybody who's following over on Twitter. And don't forget to check out our Twitter poll. Who's more important, Vladimir Putin or Joe Rogan? It looks like on Twitter, people seem to think Joe Rogan so far. We've only got 8 votes, so go over there and vote. Twitter.com/smashamash. Also, check out our own website, smashamash.com, smashamash.org. We'll redirect you. You can find our social media links. Let us know in the comments what your favorite social media is. And if you click on smAsho merch, you'll find our smAsho store at Redbubble, which has got some featured products, such as the My Vaccination Status is None of Your Business. Vaccinate this, since those not responsible for your health care and the administration thereof have no legal right to any of your protected health information. You should choose wisely who you do business with. And if you want to do business with us, perhaps pick up some products from our shops. It's a great way to get some additional benefit. Again, you can find links at smashamash.com. That's the smAsho merch. And yes, my vaccination status is none of your business. HIPAA did not evaporate. Today's Cosmology segment will be integrated into the daily space weather video, and it will be fairly short and fairly sweet, we think. By the way, we're just about to enter into the 30 brightest days of the year. The 15 days before and after the solstice are the brightest days of the year for the Northern Hemisphere, and the darkest days of the year for the South. We'll be counting down to the solstice every day, and we'll be streaming live at 11:32 p.m. and 9 seconds. That's Eastern Daylight Time on Sunday, June 20th, to wish you a happy summer, or perhaps winter if you're viewing from the Southern Hemisphere, as we're just about to enter the brightest 30 days. Check out NASA's astronomy picture of the day. Looks like some bluff in Arizona or something, right? Well, it's on Mars. And we get some close-ups of the rock strata, which have this homogeneous, streaky appearance to them. And also some clouds visible there. Check it out, folks. It's Martian rocks. And I figured I would scroll around and show close-ups of it. You can find the astronomy picture of the day at apod.nasa.gov, apod.nasa.gov. And one of the features talked about here are the clouds. Yes, Martian clouds. They're at a very high altitude, and they may consist of dry ice. In any case, that's the astronomy picture of the day. Let's pick a random number between 1 and 1050. Today's is 927, which coincides with this object right here, a low-mass X-ray binary / black hole candidate. It's XTEJ 2012 plus 381, and here are the X-ray outputs of it. The Neil Gorell Swift-Bat X-ray Observatory is the Burst Alert Telescope, and it follows the X-ray transient outbursts of various different objects, 1,050 of them. Let's take a look at XTEJ 2012 plus 381 on Aladdin Light. There it is on the DSS-2. Let's take a look at it on the 2-mass. There's infrared light from that low-mass X-ray binary / black hole candidate. And there it is in red light from the DSS-2. There it is in blue light. Let's take a look at Pan-STARRS and see if it shows up on Pan-STARRS. There's a pretty high-res view of that low-mass X-ray binary / black hole candidate. We'll just call it a massive radio source. Does it show up on Chandra? Nope. Does it show up on XMM? Nope. How about on Fermi? So there is a bit of gamma ray brightness there, but it's a pretty busy section of space anyway. And we'll close it out with a zoom in from Pan-STARRS. You can see this interesting nebula up here to the, I won't say north, but you can see this interesting nebula up here. Looks like a pulsar wind nebula perhaps. And we'll zoom way, way, way in on Pan-STARRS. There is your low mass X-ray binary / black hole candidate. We'll just call it a massive radio source. Certainly an X-ray source. There are the X-ray outputs from it for the past 16 years. It's XTE J2012 plus 381. Today's featured cosmology segment object, randomly selected at the Neil Gorell Swift-Bat X-ray Observatory, and there's your cosmology segment. Next, let's talk electrons. Earth is surrounded by bands of them. They can charge up satellites, but they aren't currently doing so. No charging hazards currently showing up. Here's a one-year chart of the electron flux, and we're seeing very low levels of electron flux here. You can find that chart also at solon.info. Here's a 3-day chart of the electron flux. And here's the forecast model, expecting fairly flat levels of electron flux here over the next couple of days. And let's beam forward and check out the total electron content forecast. This is showing you the electron density in the entire air column, all the way up to where your GPS satellite would be located down to your handset. And the redder the blob you see here, the more likely you are to see a GPS error. Here's a diagram of the Van Allen belts. Feel free to pause the video. Here's another diagram of the atmosphere. We're showing you for the F layer, located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. It's the F ionosphere layer. And here's 1 day of data, showing you 2 hours of data per second here. And each different color graduation represents 1 megahertz of frequency. There's a lot of vibration happening up in the ionosphere, lots of chemical reactions happening at the bridge between space and Earth. Ionosphere looking pretty normal to me over the past 24. Here's the latest image from 10:15 Universal Time. Looking quite normal there. And here are the bonus features of the daily space weather. It's the most currently updated intensity gram. Sunspot 2827 is still significant. It's still beta class. It still harbors the magnetic fields responsible for the type of magnetic fields responsible for significant solar flares. This area up here is looking like it might be turning into a sunspot there. I think I see additional umbrae forming. Possible sunspot 2829, I believe, is the next number. And here's sunspot 28. All right, I don't remember the numbers. Anyway, there's that other sunspot in the southeast. Here are the magnetograms. And indeed, that is a beta class sunspot. I think that one's going to get a name. And there's that other group. They have both degraded a bit. There's the intensity gram. Next, I'd like to thank our patrons, the true source of funding for the content. We've updated our patrons credit crawl list. Thanks, patrons. Please consider becoming a patron to enhance the probability that these videos will continue to exist and remain publicly visible. Also to help us to expand our operation. Thanks again, patrons. Patreon.com/smashamash for all the earliest alerts and information nobody else gets to see. Let's close out the video today with the Solar Dynamics Observatory, the SDO, 171 angstroms full disk view. You can see the growth of that new sunspot group there to the northeast of sunspot 2827, I think it is. Anyway, whatever number that sunspot is, thanks for tuning in. Remember to stare at the sun, attempt to understand the physics, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back. The Daily Space Weather, a regular feature of Smash News Network, least busted name in news.